Hello, all my lovely homesteaders and homesteaders in training. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jess and we're the Bear River Homestead, a micro homestead located in Southwest Wyoming. I hope you take a minute to go ahead and subscribe to our channel, and do be sure to hit the little bell icon just so you get notifications when we put out new videos. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 things you should really consider before you decide to make the jump into the homestead lifestyle. I know there are very romantic ideas about homesteading and what the homestead lifestyle is like, and living organic and being one with nature, and it all sounds really wonderful, but unfortunately there are some really less than pleasant realities associated with it, like poop. Can you handle poop? Because when you have animals on your homestead, you're going to be up to your knees in it sometimes. So I just wanted to chat with you a little bit about 5 things you should really think about before you jump into this lifestyle. I wish that somebody had given me this advice before I had jumped into it. I don't think it would have changed my mind at all, but I definitely would have approached this lifestyle a little bit differently. So the first thing is time. We are in a go, go, go world, and even as homesteaders, unless you are lucky enough to make all of your income off of your homestead, you're probably still going to be working outside the home, which is my case. I still have a full-time job off the homestead, and because of that, I do have time constraints. Even though I want to be home canning or working with the animals, I have a deadline at work that obviously has to come first because that pays the mortgage. So really take into consideration, how much time do you have to devote to your homestead? Now, if you don't have a lot of time, that doesn't mean you can't homestead. It just means you might want to reconsider what kind of homestead you want to have or where you want to start. If you don't have a whole lot of time, then animals, they're probably not where you want to start. Because even if chickens, for example, are generally pretty low maintenance, but they do require that daily feed, water. If they get sick, they have to be cared for, things like that. So really think about how much time realistically you will be able to devote to your homestead on a regular basis, okay? Second thing you should take into consideration is a decrease in the flexibility of your life. And what I mean by that is, when you have a homestead, your command center really is your home. And it can be difficult at times to get away from that. Vacations are extremely difficult for us because we do have animals that require care even on the weekends, even when it's, 3 feet of snow on the ground, when it's -20, when I'm not feeling well, when everybody is down with the flu, we still have those animals that require that daily care. So having a homestead definitely cuts back on that flexibility. And of course, if all you're doing is gardening, there's a little more flexibility there, but you still have to be there to tend to your garden, to weed it, to water it, to harvest the fruits. It really helps if you have someone, either a neighbor, friend, family member, that you could call upon if a situation comes up that you need to be gone for an extended period of time. I definitely would suggest that you research, if you decide to have animals, research how long they could realistically be left alone, because I think you're going to be surprised. Even with something like chickens, if you live anywhere where it gets below freezing, I have to go out and change their water pretty regularly. We don't use a heated waterer for safety reasons. So I go out and break ice or change the water altogether every few hours. Now, if I'm trying to take a vacation to the Bahamas, that's going to be really, really difficult. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone close by at this current time where we could depend on to do that for us. So really, this is something that I could not stress more. Really consider whether or not you are okay with not being able to leave your house for, a day or 2 days tops. If the answer is no, I love to travel, then maybe you should look at alternative ways of homesteading, whether that's just gardening or just making your own supplies at home, sewing, knitting, crocheting, making soap, things like that. Again, you might want to stay away from the animals. The third thing that I would really ask you to consider before you jump into homesteading is how you handle loss. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about financial loss. Anybody who is homesteading or farming can tell you that, especially in the beginning, you're going to lose money. Whether it's because you chose some equipment that turned out to not work, or because of whatever. Money is actually pretty low on the list of losses that you're going to experience. The loss I'm talking about is devoting hours and hours and hours to the care of a garden or chickens or rabbits or whatever, and then something happens, be it bad weather, be it predators, be it illness, whatever it is, and all of those days and weeks and months and years of work are wiped out. Just, in a matter of days, it's just gone. Could you emotionally handle that loss? I know that a lot of homesteaders that are on YouTube will talk about all the great things as far as homesteading, and there are so many wonderful things about homesteading, but the reality is we experience these losses regularly. And if those chickens are your pets and you're just raising them for eggs, and a predator gets into their pen and slaughters them all, and you're having to deal with all of your dead pets, that can be an extremely emotional experience. So again, before you jump into this lifestyle, consider how you would handle losing all of your crop or losing all of your animals to whatever tragic event may befall them. Okay? So the fourth consideration, and this is more consideration if you are in the city, if you're an urban homesteader, or if you live in a neighborhood, a subdivision, you absolutely have to learn the ordinances of the city that you are going to be homesteading in. Now, granted, a lot of places are becoming much more supportive of this lifestyle, and I applaud them. But unfortunately, there are still so many towns in this country that are very much opposed to any sort of livestock, be it chickens, ducks, rabbits, bees. Bees are still, I'm shocked by how many towns still consider bees a pest and won't allow you to have a hive. So definitely read the ordinances for the area that you're going to be homesteading in, but then also take into consideration your neighbors. If you have neighbors that live close by, especially if you're sharing a fence or fences with them, you want to make them as much your friend as possible, because even if your city allows chickens, for example, if the people around you are opposed to it for whatever reason, be it the smell or the noise, they can still call that in as a nuisance violation. So you really want to use your people skills if you're going to be homesteading close to others. I have used, I don't want to say bribery, but My neighbors generally always get some free eggs or free produce, or especially around Christmas, I'll bake them breads and give them some of my homemade soaps, just to kind of keep that relationship smooth, and just to remind them that, yeah, we might be a little different, but we're still good people and we are concerned about their feelings. We don't want them to feel like they're living in a farm lot, when obviously if they're living in the city, that's probably not where they want to live. So you do want to encourage as positive a relationship as possible with your neighbors. Should you have neighbors that are not supportive of what you're doing, again, make sure you know your local ordinances, because that will go a long way if at some point you were to get a visit from the local police. Okay, the last consideration I want you to think about before you start your homestead is money. It is very possible to begin homesteading with next to nothing. I am a firm believer that homesteading is a way of life. It's not about how much acreage you have or how many animals you have. It's about how you live your life. So just watching YouTube videos and learning new skills, that's still homesteading. Spending what little money it would take to get some crocheting hooks and some yarn so you can learn to crochet your own blankets, that's still homesteading. But you do have to be realistic about the expenses involved with this lifestyle. A lot of people choose this way of life thinking that it's going to save them money. And in the long run, for most people, it will. But that is assuming that, again, all of your livestock don't die off and you have to go start all over. You're able to live on your crops. You're not having to go out and supplement because you lost all of your crops. So you do need to be realistic about the amount of money that could be spent on this lifestyle for animal housing, for gardening tools, supplies, seeds, plants. Fruit trees and fruit bushes can be a pretty big investment financially. Obviously, there are ways to cut down on those expenses, but before you jump in and do like I did and got way too excited and went out and tried to buy one of everything and, then was a little bit overwhelmed, it is much more prudent to consider what your budget is each year. Whether you want to do that in the winter, preparing for spring, or in the fall, preparing for the next year, whatever. Have a good idea of what you want to spend on growing your homestead, and then start researching ways to do it cheaper. There are so many videos out there of people that have built animal shelters and greenhouses for pretty much next to nothing because they could find the supplies online for free. So, it's definitely a possibility to do it extremely cheap, but you still need to have that mindset that, yes, this is going to cost something, and you need to know how much your budget can support to go toward this lifestyle. All right, guys, those are my top 5 things you should really, really consider before you jump into the homestead lifestyle. I hope they were helpful. I know I certainly would have loved to have had this advice before we started this journey. I really appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We are still a small community, but we're growing and we would love to have you. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy homesteading.